We are just about to jump into one of my favorite player matchups to see because you always know you're in for a good time. It's Base versus CNZ, two players that have similar styles but not completely identical. Almost got there, almost. But I think that with these two players, Dan, we always get just a fantastic showing. Like nice and methodical, nice and patient. You just get to see some good Quake, you know?
Yeah, I think back in the early days, somewhat disrespectfully, CNZ was almost seen as the worst version of Base because they played for the same team back then. He was a newer guy. They had a similar play style, more or less. But I definitely think CNZ's earned his place in his own right and has evolved dramatically since then. And as somebody that has had better results in some aspects, I think as you said in the break, you really always enjoy watching these two, and so do I, because it's much more of a mental game than we see in some of the matchups. And it's really interesting to see how they then counter each other, because they do prefer a slightly more defensive style and love to take similar positions as well. So it ends up being very much of a game of chess.
Now, on that note, actually, we'll take a look at the maps because with these two players, you kind of know what you're in for by looking at them. So, Deep Embrace to start off, Keel versus the Strog, Awoken, which will then have afterwards Nyx and Sorlag. So Nyx coming out again today, very popular champion. The Molten Falls, the Galena from base on Molten. Now, what I always love is we kind of just get to see a little bit of that player personality. CNZ, it's hard to find him use anyone that's not a medium most of the time. And the light, if the utility is always there, that's kind of when he'll bring the lights out. But then base, it's just more about having either the beef or sustainability. In these two cases, you've got the Keel and you've got the Sorlag, but then on Molten, rather than anything else, the increased sustainability is still there with the ability to heal. On top of playing, no doubt, what will be positional games, ranged-based games. I expect to see that used just to kind of win those rail wars, as it were. But a couple more maps to get through before we even reach that point.
Yeah, but some big picks coming out from base, as you say. The Galena is such a strong pick for base. We've even seen it be picked by other players in a denial from him because he just plays such an exceptional Galena. But the Sorlag Nyx is obviously the one I'm picking out here to really watch. CNZ opens with the Nyx pick on that map, leaving himself a bit vulnerable to something like a Sorlag, but he obviously has a game plan and has to now be playing a slightly more reserved game than he might would have wanted to. We've seen just now the power of Nyx on Molten, but Molten is a very different beast to Awoken, where you can play that more keep away game, whereas Awoken tempo will be firmly set by the Sorlag. And so I'm liking that from base, and that's going to be the one I'm watching out for.
Well, we're loading into that first map anyway. You always kind of look at this matchup and you would favor base on paper, but I can't really keep track of how many times the 2-1 seems to come about, and not even that, but how it's a 2-1, but that final map comes down to like a final frag or as close as it can be, really. That's why these two going head-to-head is one of my favorite matchups to watch, because you kind of know what you're going to get, but at the same time, you don't, because who's going to take it remains to be that final question. However, checking things out from CNZ's point of view first, how do you manage the Keel on the Deep Embrace, a map which has so much scope for that kind of spam, that distance, the grenades being great, but just the beef to work with. Mobility on the side of CNZ, who's able to get himself all of his important weapons. And he's setting up for a rail angle. He knows his opponent didn't quite get one. A bit hesitant maybe to take the shot there, Dan. And he is going to be able to get away scot-free with a rail in hand.
Yeah, we've seen Keel fall off a little bit on this map. It was obviously the favoured pick when Deep Embrace first came out, but as players become more accustomed to the tempo and the positioning, Keel has struggled a little bit in recent times, and I've actually seen base struggle a lot with Keel on this map in the past. He obviously favours it and likes to play it, but you just are very incredibly vulnerable, particularly trying to get out of this heavy area. So that's something that has struggled in its favour.
It's one of those things that the more we see this map, the more mobility seems to become the favourable factor. It's one thing Keel doesn't have. He's one of the, I think actually the only heavy champion that can't really move. You look at Clutch, you look at Scale Bearer, Sorlag, they've all got those kind of mobility tools behind them, and Keel just, he's got his own heavy boots and that's it. A heavy grenade launcher that makes him slow, but now Look at how, this is what we're talking about. How
Yeah.
long they have just been here holding an angle. They've got the same plan, the same idea, and we've been here for a minute and a half, and here we are, continuing.
Well, as I said, Keel has a problem getting out of there without taking too much damage. The base is like, well, if I can't get out, I'm just going to stay here. And unless you want to move or show me where you are, I'm not going to move.
I love that play. You know that the rail connects and the rail will almost force you to take the Mega behind. And base, what a prediction. Not only are you going to take this Mega because I've just hit you with the rail, but you're going to try and get some armor. And I know where the armor is. Oh, here come the grenades. CNZ, I don't think he heard them get fired. It is quite a quiet little ability. And there's the rail for base. This is what I mean though, Dan. That a player like base is so content to sit in the same spot for almost 2 minutes just to create that one opportunity to take the lead.
Oh, nice. Absolutely, and he's done it. He's managed to get onto the map, and now he's bullying CNZ just a little bit. There's a split beginning to emerge between the items as well, and lovely follow-up there. That stalls any aggression CNZ hoped to get onto this next heavy, giving base ample opportunity to work his way onto the mid-ground, find CNZ, do a little bit chip damage, and then fall back onto the Mega.
Using the well-established control that he worked so hard to create. And let him be quite aggressive. However, flying through the teleporter, a bonus rail on base, but with a stack that high, is only going to do so much given the circumstances. And a solid lead now for base, in position for the heavy. You know, if it's not so easy for you to get up on heavy position, you need to make sure you're there earlier than the opponent. And it's not a matter of, hey, heavy's going to spawn, let's just jump in and grab it. Base kind of needs to put himself there first. And he will do. In position for Mega as well. So much damage coming out from CNZ. Delicious LG.
Yeah, really nice. CNZ realizing he had the advantage positioning and could trap base into that one-on-one LG fight, which is exactly what he wanted to do. Base didn't hit anywhere near enough to actually stall CNZ's advances. So this is why we see the aggression going out here onto the heavy. Luckily for base, that grenade does knock CNZ down and allows him to get back onto the high ground to pressure this next item as well. Big rail coming out the grenades as well. The mind picking it up because he can do that.
Let's talk about what happened there. The Pika was used to force a rail to make CNZ feel like he can take the Mega for free. A grenade detonates underneath him, knocks him over the Mega, and then he just gets railed anyway. That was such a disaster. But I gotta say, props to base for capitalizing. That was stylish.
It was stylish, but awkward fight coming out from CNZ, forcing the issue here. Gonna be able to chase base down. This has got lovely rockets. Still only 4-2. Feels like base has had more control than this. 5 minutes in nearly. Low score and deep embrace, but what would we expect between these two? Pushing in aggressively using the speed, but he's taking loads of damage. He's a bit stuck here, and base is going to walk around into so much damage himself. Doesn't even pick up the heavy. He had to fight that fight because he himself was vulnerable. And CNZ is back in this game. Lovely pushing from base. He forces CNZ down. He didn't get the pick up again. Oh, this heavy is a death trap.
But you can even see there how long it took base to kind of be able to go back there and pick the heavy up. And that's why CNZ, felt brave to jump down in the first place, was because he knows that base isn't going to be able to simply just jump up and take the heavy from under him. And then backing off to take the Mega, it's going to take base a considerable amount of time to get the heavy, so he can't challenge. However, the point blank rail. Risky business coming out from base, but one that will pay off. A lovely rail to be able to shut it down. Get that Pika out there, but it will be a safe advance from CNZ. Unfortunately, that rocket!
What a rocket
Disastrous for CNZ. Man gets knocked off course. No heavy for you, and how do you survive this? Can you survive this?
No. Base is bullying these items much better than CNZ at this point. CNZ's had to do some all-ins to get his frags where it feels more controlled from base. Nevertheless, there's still only 2 frags in it catch up, and CNZ is doing enough to stay alive. He's on the back foot, but he's hitting some crucial shots to stop base from making that final move to finish them off. But look at this stack now. He's going to work his way over to the Mega, and then he's hit critical mass. So there's an important rail from CNZ here, or at least some sort of damage he needs to do. Base though, realizing it, just going up and being a bit alpha, positioning up there. And the posturing's not working out as CNZ still peppering down with damage from above, and even gets the frag before the pickup.
Delicious sequence from CND. Those two rockets kind of knocking base off course. That very much was the green light, but the grenade! He has to get out. Has to respect it, but base.
No.
Getting rail side spawn was all he needed, and that goes to show always and forever that heavy stack. If you spawn near an item, CNZ on paper had such advantage there. Damage, 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 but then a little bit in return, because there's just such a brick wall to chip away at. The rail misses. Free kamikaze!
It connected though, that's the key point. You won't be able to get at this heavy, but look how low base is. Soon as he's going to try and cut off any health he can. Trying to listen out, but he misses out there. Base is still very low, wants to work his way over to that 2 health bubble portal there, which he does, and actually gets out. And as you said, a little bit of complacency from CSG, I think. He went into that narrow channel, which you never want to do against a Keel. Grenades are enough to really stall your advances there, so he has to check that, work his way around the longer way. Rocket jumps across, base is ready for it, hits the rail, with no health, but somehow gets a frag.
Is it just me, or do you think CND is sitting there thinking, you used the teleporter with that health? Mustn't have expected it. You already had the angle set up and ready for underneath, and then he just gets railed on the other side of the teleporter. Those cheeky moments, but I mean, when they work out, able to find his way back up. But base, with the frag lead and there being 2 minutes left, you know what that means.
Trading item once again, and exactly that. Base will just take his foot off the pedal, but being the master of defense always finds a way to do damage onto these items and to make sure he has a strong defensive position to punish any advances from CNZ. So it's going to be a very calculated approach from CNZ if he wants to get back into this. Good starting rail though, that's exactly what he needs. Base won't even show face, he'll just back off and try and play around the opposite item to where CNZ commits.
CNZ cannot get too aggressive. He still has time on his side, the nature of Deep Embrace being a smaller map. 3 frags in just over a minute. It is absolutely in that realm of possibility. However, it is starting to run away from him quite quickly, as now we're about to hit that 1 minute warning.
Might end the same way it started as well, with them both just playing around this heavy. CNZ recognizes the base isn't going to move. And he doesn't need to move as his prey comes to him in this instance, and he gets a defining frag to solidify his position. Lovely rail as well, and it's just a celebration run to finish off this map now, as it really is no chance for CNZ to get 4 frags in the last 40 seconds.
Thoroughly well played from base, and it goes to show the patience that he's known for. But not afraid to be aggressive when the time comes. Let's not forget the opening moment where about 3 or 4 frags that went into his favor, they were quick, swift, aggressive. He knows he has the upper hand because of the 2 minutes of him just trying to keep control on his side. Then we start to trickle them, you know, 1 frag a piece here and there, but forever CNZ had the higher amount of work to do. I just think that this has been a nice demonstration of the 2 of them. Base will take this first map, but by all means, there's chances for CNZ to get more on the board. Just plays this one phenomenally well. You know, you mentioned that Keel, definitely a champion that is not necessarily falling out of favor, but he's not as popular as he used to be on Deep Embrace because of the weaknesses. But there's one thing Base will know and understand with his kind of style of play. He will acknowledge weaknesses in his pick, and he'll just try and make that situation occur as little as possible. Or at the very least, work around it that can somehow turn it into an advantage. Keel can't get away from heavy side, and that's where I've spawned. Okay, well, we've only just started the map, and neither of us have a frag yet, so what if I kind of just sit around and let you be the one that comes in? And the second he hit that first rail that just immediately caused CNZ to back off and take the mega, by the time he collects that light armor, Base is already at the armor waiting for him, and it was like 2 minutes of setup. A perfect Base maneuver.
Exactly. Took some moments of magic for CNZ to get back into the game, and as you noticed, when he was able to impose himself and play that faster game, Base began to struggle, but at the end of the day, it was strategical from Base. He limited his exposure and played around the heavy so strongly, baiting CNZ in. That frag was like really pivotal for him winning, in fact. It took a lot of balls to go back through that TP and connect. And most of Base's engagements were around this area because that's the strength of the Keel. He didn't push out onto the map. He respected CNZ's positioning. And once again, it was a very slow strategical game on Deep Embrace, exactly what we expected to see.
And as we now load into our next map, Awoken. Many people say that Deep Embrace has many similarities to Awoken, not just visually, but with just how it flows and plays. We are starting to see, for another time though, this significant difference between two champion types, light versus heavy. But when it comes to light, Nyx doesn't tend to be the most vulnerable with the lights, because if a Ghost Walk is being used well, that ace in the hole, we just saw that with Chain versus Effortless, right? Scalebearer versus Nyx, where the existence of the Ghost Walk, and you said it yourself, it can almost look just completely overpowered when it's being used at like the highest level and it's working. I wonder if that will bring forward things now on Awoken, because it's a good map for CND to pick this champion on, I think. Again,
yeah,
it needs to work though, because if it doesn't, Base will take advantage.
Base is a Nyx specialist in his own right, particularly on this map. So he'll know all the tricks of the trade as to the positioning and the traps that will be shown. And I really do like the Sorlag bit, because if you can get ahead of steam and play the faster paced tempo, get on the items, Nyx really suffers. And as you pointed out, you can use that acid spit to pop the Ghost Walk, and then she just becomes an incredibly vulnerable target. So CNZ is going to have to play very smart, a little bit slower. If he can do that, and if he can start connecting on rails, yes, he can turn the tide in his favor, but it is a little bit of an uphill battle.
At this level of play, you look at these matchups, because the picks and bans, they all come through, and you know what you're in for, and that kind of aids, I think, your decision making with what you pick and why you pick it. So at the same time, this is a matchup that is put forward on you. You know what you're in for, right? You know what you have to do. It's going to be a tricky exchange, yeah. But if someone's going to be up to the challenge, it'll be someone like CNZ who doesn't get rattled, doesn't get phased. And I think he's going to go into this map with a clear head, and he could definitely win this. I just hope that he gets a good start. One of the biggest problems on the Deep Embrace was after that 2-minute mark, Base gets that first frag, and then daisy chains 2 or 3 more, and from that point, CNZ was permanently behind.
Yeah, and it is all about the start in this next encounter. It can snowball so quickly out of your favor, but it raises, as you said, a lot of pressure on your shoulders. But CNZ is one of these players that can keep his mind in the right place, stall that tempo, and I don't expect Base to go off with too much of a bang either.
Base is actually, that's the worst case scenario. I was just about to say, yeah. Base having mega side, he went straight for heavy. He just no hesitation whatsoever, and has full control. Less than 20 seconds in, Dan. That is brutal.
I mean, everything I just said went out the window, and now CNZ has to find a way not only to get back into the game, but how to overcome a stacked Sorlag. And going aggressive like that is not the way to do it. Base more than prepared for that push. Big rail coming out a second, doesn't connect, however, but he has the items to fall back on.
CNZ dancing with the devil sitting around here as the heavy has already been taken. Thankfully, though, able to reduce any damage incoming. But a rail from Base is going to secure 3 frags in less than a minute. This is very much not the start you want. The Ghost Walk is gone as well. This could be a rather tender map as CNZ drops again 5-0 in a minute. We saw this a couple of weeks ago, CNZ versus Avec. I know that it has been CNZ trying different styles for the past few weeks. I think he is trying to expand a little bit on what he does gameplay-wise, but these starts have been a bit frequent in this stage.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. And now there's a Sorlag, and you're dead again. So this is exactly why I'm always fearful when I see a next pick, and it's coming to reality for CNZ, which is not good for CNZ fans out there.
Oh, that airborne 100 damage. That was a bad time for me to take a sip of my drink because I almost coughed. Oh! And a fight that CNZ, it's going to be hard for him to win. No rail in hand. He's just about to take one. But he gets taken out with Base already holding the angle. CNZ. I believe he might be having some troubles, actually.
Absolutely no mercy from
Base. I was wondering why he was standing still for a minute. I was watching things from his point of view.
Wow.
That's unlike. That's not going to be Base's problem, is it? He's going to push in again. Oh, the Ghost Walk is there, but delaying the inevitable, perhaps. Base, can he get the perfect chase? Can he find
Base is
another?
a perfect split on the items as well. What are you meant to do as CNZ? He has to find a way to do damage. And, there's a good rail. 1 second, he could just restack as a light as well for him to restack on even further. And Base is very good at avoiding damage. And at the moment, what do you say for CNZ? 7 frag, the difference 2.5 minutes in.
It's scary, isn't it? Because you always look at this and you think, what can someone do to turn it around? And often it can be, you know, try and slow down, try and stabilize, you know, kind of maybe dedicate on what of the items means more to you, and then try and make a play on that to stop them from taking it and make something happen from that. Whatever it is, you've got 7 minutes to make up for already a rather large mountain to climb difference of frags. All the while, you're outstacked all the time. Base is hitting most of his shots anyway. I think this is one of those instances where you look at it and your answer is just, I genuinely don't know. I have no idea what CNZ is even supposed to do. Because he's 9 frags down. We're miles away from the 5-minute mark.
Base is hitting 50% LG against the Nyx, which is also disgusting. He has both items with a good split between the two. He's being proficient at popping up the Ghost Walk, and he's got a 9 frag lead as well. So not only has he that safety net, but he also can go super aggressive if he wants to and give away frags if CNZ gets one. So it really is futile at this point for CNZ, if we're being brutally honest.
Now the Ghost Walk could be used to try and stop the bleeding. I think he was probably able to get a little bit right there. Yeah, he picked up one of the small health bubbles. I didn't think the Ghost Walk had been used. But yeah, kind of looking at things from CNZ's point of view, he doesn't look uncertain, but there's a bit of slow pace here, right? Where he's sitting on an item significantly earlier than it's going to appear. He's kind of holding a rail, looking for a rocket, but he's still kind of looking around the map, trying to see where Base is going. He kind of just looks a little bit lost, to be honest.
Yeah, that Mega should have been his, but again, probably missed timing, just standing on the T-con area and allowed Base into it. There's not really much to say at this point.
Oh, and the Tribolt kept him away from the armor just to add insult to injury. Fully messed up that wall jump.
Yeah. I know this map isn't the best example of it because of the context, but what I do say is I love it when Base plays aggressive and shows, again, his prowess in terms of mechanical skill, just decision-making as well. Like the fact that he's not over-committing, overextending, giving away any needless frag, even though he's a Sorlag and can afford to do so. It's all precision.
In this case, he's just going to be following the scheduled programming, picking up items, keeping full control of them. The time it takes CNZ to pick up a couple of weapons to keep himself in the game, unfortunately, it does often give Base an opportunity to get the item, which he can just use next time. This is the rail. Not that it really matters, because he can still push in. Opponent has spawned without armor. Might have just taken a light, but that rail... Oh, and it knocks him through the archway before he can go through the door. That was almost a death sentence.
Lovely fake rocket jump. CNZ doesn't pull for it. There he goes. Oh, he does actually get the item in the end and gets a frag. So he gets on the board. I'm not saying he's getting a comeback, but he's on the board.
Oh, but to back up and take the scraps that remain, had no choice but to fully give up on Heavy.
Well, that shows, again, the challenge is that, yes, he gets a frag, but then he's now out of control once again because he has to go regroup elsewhere whilst the stack Sorlag picks up everything else. And so, playing a Nyx is a very momentum-based champion. You have to get that lead early, and like Chain, if you do, then you can start playing around your opponent and you can start baiting them in and capitalizing upon their overextensions. But if you're the one that has to make the risky moves, you're in for a lot of trouble.
It just cannot be done. I'm not convinced. Backing up and taking that light armor, a nice rail to boot. Base making it look like it's really easy to hit Nyx with anything, which is just not the case. And we are just
already dead.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I mean, what is the damage? You know, the funny thing is that damage-wise, I know it's light versus heavy, but CNZ has only done about 300 damage less than Base, which is really hard to believe with how this has been going.
Yeah, but every engagement has been kind of one-on-one LG fight, base will always take more damage, but he's just hitting so much. Like this one as an example. Even if he got the frag there, he can just fall onto an item, where now CNZ has to back off, try and find some items himself. And base is just going to work his way around to the heavy. And there is a Ghost Walk up, but so CNZ can try and do something. Once again, it's all futile at this point.
More of these rails coming through. Like I said, base making it look easy. This is CNZ not stuck in a terrible position. And with that Ghost Walk, an aggressive push though. I like before using the Ghost Walk, going for the telefrag. But in this instance, you have to try something big. You know, if you can get that frag before the fight breaks out, it saves on damage, it saves on resources. Might be able to push forward and get a little bit more. I think all that CNZ can hope for right now is to try and get frags to soften the blow, because with it being 20 for base, so this is it. Very little he can do. CNZ got to keep his hands warm as we go into that final map, but this one has been an absolute dismantling of CNZ.
Yeah. Pretty painful to watch. At least we got to also see some nice frags and bases POV.
I'm thinking about how that map began. Taking the mega, jumping down towards heavy, fragging you, and then taking the heavy as well. In less than 20 seconds. That should have, I think, said everything it needed to say about how this map was going to go. CNZ. Not even able to get that rail fight. And base is using a nice amount of defensive positioning, but somehow he gets the frag. That is a poetic end for a one-sided Awoken. That's for sure. Less than a minute left, and this is just going to be us finishing what needs to be done. CNZ, he did not exist at any point in this map. There was no chance. The moment he conceded that first frag and the full control went to base and he's hitting all the shots, I really don't know what he could have done.
No. I was most serious when I said GG after 40 seconds, you know? You can just kind of feel it, that tempo. And the way in which base played that first opening minute and got almost like 3 or 4 frags in the space of one cooldown of the Ghost Walk. It's a yikes moment from me.
And at this point, CNZ's just trying not to die, but there's nothing that can be done to delay the inevitable. As it's going to be a one-sided victory on that map from base. As we'll jump into the final pick, I believe Molten Falls is going to be the final one, but at the same time, champion picks. I believe
Galena Ranger.
It's Galena and Ranger, yeah. And the Galena from base makes me worried, because if base is hitting the shots that he's hitting today, and he has more sustainability than his opponent, we've already seen how fantastic base's Galena is. I think that he is in perfect position to 3-0 today.
This is what I would have expected going into this, and again, the performance reinforces it. That pom was very well played from both. This one less so, for whatever reason that is. And the final map, I like the Ranger pick from CNZ, but I think the Galena is just stronger, particularly in the hands of base. And he can slow that tempo down. He can get that overstack, and then CNZ is going to find it very hard to push in on base.
Base's aim. That's what this whole map has demonstrated, is just how insanely good base's aim tends to be. The amount of highlight moments he got today on that map against a Nyx of all champions, and in these really unusual situations where he's getting these kind of tight little flicks around a corner, whatever it is, you almost forget that he was playing Nyx in that match. And she's very, very hard to hit in those circumstances. Base kind of just making it look simple.
I think CNZ's just counting his blessings that it's only 10-minute duels. That's the only thing he had going for him. But that was, I mean, it's enjoyable to watch when you see nice frags. Obviously, it was an absolute whitewash from the start, so it absolutely meant nothing how it played out. Base just had to run the course of the map.
I do believe, though, that CND might be having some troubles with his internet. He's kind of, I think we're kind of getting it resolved with admin, but it seems very much like CND's having internet troubles, which would very much, I think, explain why he had such a hard time on that map. I think particularly at the beginning of that map, I wonder if that was actually one of the causes for things, for him to just like not get to heavy and all this other weird stuff that just kind of felt things to be the beginning of the end before we'd even started the map. So as soon as we know what's happening with CNZ, by all means, we'll let you know. But again, this isn't the tournament side of it. This is our weeklies, but at the same time, every map counts here in this season. So if there's anything you can do to kind of make your next map more ideal for your situation, it has to be done.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with it. It's been a day of mishaps today, man.
Yeah, I know, right? Sparty's tech problems and now this.
Yeah. What can we say? You have to deal with it. Not sure what's going to happen, but obviously we might not be moving on to Fortress of the Deep. Interesting. That's a metal song, right?
Yeah, that's like an album name. But to be fair, take the skybox of Molten Falls and it looks a little bit like an album cover. So I guess we're. To be fair, actually, this entire game is why I like it so much. I'm a big fan of edgy games, you know, Doom as well, right up in there.
Yeah.
It's got the aesthetic that I like.
I can see that. I can see that coming from you. Although you're wearing a very fresh jacket today, not in tune with that.
I know, right? You'd never have guessed if you saw it today.
Yeah.
Like, you know, yeah. I actually got this while I was in Ukraine. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's the only piece of clothing I've got in 2 years that was actually from another country. Which is a weird reality, you know. It really is. 2 years have just kind of shot by for many of us, I'm sure. I think we're currently deciding... it looks like we're giving CNZ... I think we're just looking at different servers perhaps, but I don't know if that's actually going to fix
I'm just trying to keep up with the chat as well.
Yeah, very much so. But I think it's his own personal connection, which would definitely explain it. But
might need to forfeit by the sounds of it, but we'll see. We wait, we grind on.
Yeah, it seems like one of those things. When we have these things online and they go the way they do, it's always a tricky position, I think, to deal with, because we've all been there. We all have the internet, right? You'll wake up one day and your internet will just not work out. Whether it's slow, whether it's turning off, like who knows? There's all kinds of different things that can factor it in. And all you can really do, I think, in a competitive setting is just roll with the punches, right? You kind of just make the best of the situation that's put forward.
You know, one day soon that won't matter. And then one day soon we'll get back to LAN as well, where we can, yeah, those are the days. But for now, we have to deal with all this BS.
Hopefully not for much longer. That's right. Hopefully not for much longer. We all miss LAN very, very much.
Nothing can be worse than my internet, no, I'm not going to lie. British, you'll feel my pain here. British internet is just bad.
You think it's good. You think it's good, but it's not. It'll be good for a bit, and then it'll just go bad forever. Right.
So what are they saying?
Yes, we've just been told by production, and I think I can see it here as well. I think CNZ is going for a restart, which I think really, given the circumstances, is all he can do. But yeah, today I feel kind of bad though. You know, we got into the show, and I'm like, we've got a day, chock-a-block full of Quake and good matches and big games, 7 series, and 2 of our 3 series. There's been tech issues, there's been internet problems. What can we do, Dad? What do we do?
They get to enjoy more of us catch up. That's the real blessing here, right? That's the definition of a silver lining.
Yeah, I'm sure Twitch chat loves it. I'm sure they love it.
DJ Wheat sitting there taking notes as well, I'm sure, somewhere.
Scale bearer is perhaps better than I thought.
He won't ever admit it, though.
Never. Oh, no. Definitely not. So I've been told it should take roughly about 3 minutes, by the way, so don't worry. Rest assured, as soon as CNZ is ready, as soon as he's ready, we will jump in. They're not waiting for... It's a common misconception, I think, with productions, right, is that... I think it's common, not just in, like, Quake, but in esports in general, where there's always that comment of, oh, I wish the commentators would stop talking already so the match can start. It's like, guys... They're not waiting for us to finish our chit-chat for the map to start. When the map's ready to start, we'll jump in. You know what I'm saying? He's back, Clerk. He's back. And we'll be jumping.
That was quick. We'll see if it works, though. Might need to, obviously, restart or do whatever. We'll have to see when we jump into the map, but that's the best you can do for now.
But at the same time, let's talk about the matchup, if we are able to see it. Anyway, we have that Galena versus Ranger. I think we'll be jumping in pretty much as soon as we can now. CNZ is back. Admin's just kind of confirming that he's good to go. But again, we'll kind of recap on those last 2 maps. On that second one, it was more... There's not much that we can say about CNZ if he was having troubles, but we can talk about base and his aim, which seems to be on fire today. Couple that aim with strong positional play on Molten Falls and having just health in your pocket, especially if he has the chance to overstack, it's going to be really hard for CNZ to, even if he wasn't having troubles, I think this would be a tough map for him to win with how base is playing today.
I think it just goes to show how that's exactly why base is so scary as well, because he already plays such a cerebral game and so defensive and extremely efficiently around the items. Couple that with proficient positioning. Whenever you push in, he's going to punish you. Whenever you overextend, he's going to punish you. And then he has the capability, as and when he wants to really go aggressive and abuse that aim. It's incredibly easy for when you have strong aim like that to just play around it, but he doesn't. He plays around the decisions in the items, and that's why he is so damn strong. And he's another player I think we've overlooked in terms of someone who could take even another step forward in his career to push for like top 3 spots potentially. So he's looking good, and again, when his aim is on like that level of form, he can beat almost anyone.
base has had such a journey in Quake Champions. I'll never forget his kind of dominance early, or at least being able to just pull off those kind of big maps, those big sets that kind of get people really thinking about him. But when it came to LAN, I just think that whether it was the pressure getting too much for him or whatever, he just was never really able to kind of maintain that. But it's that can be a common thing, right? Where a player will be really good online, and then there's so much other factors at play when you go to play in these kind of big tournaments where the circumstances are just very different, and it can take players quite a while. It was that, God, if memory serves, I'm sure it was DreamHack Tour. It was the first big 2v2 tournament that happened. base rocked up there and just was pretty much the star fragger of the entire tournament. And from that point on, I think it was almost just a mental confidence unlock, where from that point on, base became thoroughly a top player. And now, years later in Duel, one of the scariest players, not only in EU, but the world, as we now jump in. Hopefully CNZ has been able to somewhat resolve his internet troubles. If not, this will be a clean sweep for base before we've even started.
Well, irrespective of that, I'm definitely giving base the slight upper hand just because on the pick. I really like the Galena pick here as base slows it right down over by the LG, trying to set a trap there, knowing that CNZ needs that weapon. CNZ does read that play, however, and doesn't commit to the area. Here's base back off and now decides to press on it.
Base has already hidden the totem in a tricky little position near Mega. Hiding a totem, not so much to be able to heal. I think more so to make sure that your next totem drop down is more significant than it would be if it was used by itself. If you can get 2 totems hidden away, that third one you drop in overstack territory is just going to be so delicious. Speaking of which, full control over this side of the map is giving base a chance to establish these totems. Oh, that rocket doing 100 damage on its own! One of the most beautiful reactionary rockets I've seen all day, Dan.
It's really nice and keeps base in the game as he now backs off again. CNZ pressing on the Mega. Items are all at the same time, however. And they will again trade.
I'm loving this part of the map from base. He knows he hasn't got a rail, but as long as he's on Mega's side, being able to set up those totems is going to be even better. We take that Mega, it's going to cut that cooldown of the next totem considerably. And on that note, next totem ready to drop, and when he drops it, brings us into flaming totem territory. Can
already getting the overstack, a minute and a half. No, CNZ finds one as well, so just knocking overstack off for now. Delaying the inevitable, really. We'll get it at some point. Pushing in aggressively on the high ground, LG out. Base meeting him in kind. Hasn't got a lot of stack, but has got a totem to work with. And then they back off. CNZ going aggressive, actually. Really nice play. He'll be able to pick up both items here. That's lovely from CNZ. Base ready, though, and actually done enough here. Oh, big rocket as I say
he
that.
misses it!
Somehow he gets the frag, and base also uses the stack to maximize the utility of the Mega. That was amazing play from both Ketchup.
Yeah, a crazy way to begin. But again, 2 minutes. Yeah, that was a 2-minute setup pretty much. At the same time, CNZ, he dealt with at least one of the totems, but the one that's down in Mega, I feel like it could be there for the entire map at this pace. Opening up in CNZ with the punish. Delicious follow-up. Big fan of that. And now we kind of swap sides of the map. But again, I said it, he's hidden that totem. I don't think CNZ has thought to look there yet. You know, it's not going to be on his priority list right now when he's already 2 maps down. He's trying to keep the map control. But as long as that totem remains hidden, that's going to be dangerous for the other totems that base is able to drop, really. So much rocket damage, and another.
Yeah, really nice by base there, and he will have the overstack up now. He's pushing in aggressively. He caught CNZ, who tries to cut base off in the doorway, but mistimes the push, and base backs off for a free mega. Has the overstack as well, and CNZ actually goes aggressive to try and pick up that light, which he does do. Big rockets chipping out base's stack. Somehow he's done enough to actually get the stack advantage here after such a dire opening off that spawn.
Base is able to take away. I love that play from
Wow.
CNZ. The bait upon bait. You think I'm going to teleport to it? Think again. Super shotgun in the face.
And this is exactly the way you need to play Ranger against someone like a base, is using the aggression that can come out from that orb, the baiting, the positioning. Really nice by CNZ to keep in this game. Base pushing aggressively though, takes away the mega, hits a rail as well. CNZ's a little bit on the ropes here. Base gets better advantage. Oh, nearly connecting with that totem. Should be able to pick up a free heavy. And he's got perfect rotation of map control at the moment. CNZ's doing enough to stay in the game with some good traps, some good shots. But again, Base controlling everything. Picks up another frag.
Frames before he was able to get that next rocket launcher off. That was a huge shame. I was expecting at least one more rocket to come Base's way to create the situation as Mega appears. He takes out CNZ, who was marginally too early.
And he's also got the rotation on the light as well, which means CNZ has one item to work with, just one solitary light at this point. So he needs to find a way to break this rotation, and this is what we said. Base is even delaying it now. CNZ sees the item, picks it up, and actually goes aggressive with the orb as well, bouncing up high. He's trying to force the issue here, and he's done enough again to get Base back, but hasn't done enough to get a frag.
That rail to shut down a bit more of that Mega. Yes, he has taken the Mega, but that's not going to mean too much as long as Base is hitting rails like that to shut it down. Speaking of which, though, that's going to create an opening, but totems in play. Base now back up, can tank 2 rails. Now none with that tri-bolt. Looking for the sneaky angle, and the defensive play can come back out. CNZ's going to get control over the items, but he needs more than that if he's going to come back into this map.
Yeah, brazen by CNZ to push in the first instance and get that heavy, but that play's worked out and he's trying to force the issue. Rocket jumping in across, not connecting, but he knows the Mega is up now. But this is the power of Base, the ability to play with nothing. That's what he's doing. CNZ going aggressive through doorways, that's a risk, but he's done it enough to get a frag.
He knows how weak CNZ is, even with the lights that exist up top. Starting shotgun of all starting weapons, that's going to be the one that you fear the most when you've got that pre-death scream, you know? You always hate it. But CNZ's done a great job of stabilizing. Can Base get a bonus rocket before Mega spawns? No. In and out. No, he sticks around a bit. Maybe not expecting Base to drop down there. Looked a bit unsure of where he wanted to go there, Dan.
He did look a little bit at odds, and Base capitalizes once again. He's going to work his way around for this heavy, but CNZ has to make a play here. There's a big item, cuts Base off of the channel as well, hits a nice rail. Now the momentum's in his corner. He's got the orb as well, so can chase down his opponent, can use it to finish him. He's leaving the heavy up though, and that might cost him this Mega. Base hears the jump pad and knows he's got plenty of time to swoop in here, so that's a big mistake from CNZ.
Drop down totems on the retreat. I think CNZ might have been able to hear that at the very least. But even then, Base doesn't have a lot. Even after taking that light bubble, railable still. But that totem that he dropped down is able to kind of stop the bleeding just a little bit. But we've already seen that change of pace. Base is playing so much more just defensive. Totem's going to survive a little bit extra, but the aggressive orb.
Nice.
We're playing no games. We're playing no games.
No, secured. Kill secured. And now he's got the advantage. He's got all the stack. He hasn't been damaged yet. Full stack. Pressure in. Almost carefree. He's taking a lot of damage, but he's got the frag and he's going to work his way over to his light as well. So the men are relatively on even stack. Base knows how much damage he did in the previous game, which he's pushing. He's got the totem, and that is enough. So again, slightly over-aggressive from CNZ, taking way too much damage in the channel, and that allows Base to come back hard off the spawn. Mega's up. Base will swoop it up. He doesn't have time to get across to the heavy, though.
And with the dire orb ready to go for CNZ. A bit of opening damage, but not enough to make him worry. Oh, we were so close.
The same situation catch up where he is just too low. So now he has to find a way to prohibit Base's aggression here. Doesn't want to kill the totem to give his position away. Does it eventually when he knows Base is gone. Base actually tries to trap him over by the heavy, but CNZ was waiting for the Mega.
A rather pivotal item, I think, to spawn. As in this case, it's going to give a bunch of damage out there for Base. Not enough to count, though, as they still remain rather even. The hourglass is in the favor of Base. Unfortunately for him, a rocket hurts. Absolutely.
Nice.
CNZ takes the lead. And in this case, does not take as much damage as normal. So we can make something happen from this. Sets up a lovely little angle, in fact. Base gets the light, but he has limited resources to challenge the Mega, which lets CNZ push in and take it. This could be his chance to take a map here, Dan.
Could be. Base gets in on the heavy, so CNZ now just has to play the defensive game. He has to play Base at his own game. He has the orb, so if CNZ decides to push, he can burst damage or he can get away. Doesn't want to waste that, though. It's a key utility in his defense now.
This is that one instance where Base, if he was the one that was 2 frags in the lead with the minute, it's like, right, he's going to dig his heels in and we're going to play that defensive game for a minute. He is very much the one that needs to find CNZ. The cheeky rail placement. CNZ just caught completely blindsided by it.
Base holding strong on the stairs. He wants to bet out this light armor. CNZ falls for it and he gets a frag. 30 seconds to go for Base to make the comeback. He's got all the stack in the world to go aggressive as well. He hears the pickup. He's on the chase. He's left the heavy up. The question is, can he catch CNZ? He's got the orb, as we still said. He didn't use it just yet. Comes out, but the overstack's there. Huge from Base, and he's caught CNZ, and he has an item to drop down onto.
All 3 totems. That's the thing. Able to get a considerable amount of health back from them. And that's a scary time for it to happen, as now we're entering sudden death. But advantage Base when we look at the utility that's set up. Yes, CNZ has a decent stack, but with the way that Base has been playing, he's actually going to drop 1 down just to give himself a Mega that they exchange off. Does CNZ know that he dropped it down? Does he realize that Base is as stacked as he currently is? I think he was too far away to hear it.
Yeah, CNZ's done an amazing job all game of keeping on top of this overstack, but at this pivotal time, Base has managed to get it up. He's working his way around. CNZ catches him a little bit off guard. Base thought he was on the high ground, bounces him into a rail. CNZ's so weak, and Base converts to take a lovely 3-0.
A 3-0 that almost wasn't. Up until that closing minute, CNZ was just looking to be in such fantastic shape, but almost poetic seeing the kind of final play come down to that totem setup at the beginning. They essentially trade Megas where the actual Mega goes to CNZ. Base just overstacks himself from the totems, and that position alone, I love being able to kind of like mirror, almost have the opposite effect of normally when someone goes down in that point of Molten, like that area of the map, it's kind of a no man's land, you're stuck, but it's such an unlikely place for CNZ to go out there that it allows for a free setup. And if he even needed to, if Base needed to back up there, even if he didn't get that frag, he could have just turned around and picked up the health from those totems again. Like, that was a almost completely impossible situation for CNZ when that opening damage was landed, which is a shame because he looked so good in that map, especially with the internet troubles that he's been experiencing today.
He really did look good, and I enjoyed a lot the way he was almost rattling Base. He knew he had to play high tempo. He knew he had to keep on top of Base's stack, and so he was really pushing boundaries, overextending in some areas. There was a few times where he had a massive stack advantage and pushed Base in a choke point and took more damage than he needed to. They were pretty much the only mistakes, but Base being Base did punish them. And it was really here at the end where that overstack won him the game. Pretty much the first time all game he had it, and just at the right time. If he didn't have that, he probably couldn't have pushed him for that final rail because he would have taken too much damage.
I mean, dude, I'm actually going to look at that replay as well. Can we talk about how insane his LG was there? Like, there's so many places.
51% again.
But like, even in that final frag where he's looking towards Mega, he starts taking a bunch of unchallenged LG damage, flicks to CNZ, and hits a perfect stream. Like, that is such a tricky little finite situation to squeeze out that much damage. And then the moment that rocket connected, it was over. The rocket connected and knocked CNZ totally out of any cover that could have existed. And the rest of it was history. And a situation that definitely would have killed him if he didn't have the overstack. So a great finish. We're going to go for a break and set up our next match, folks. And when we come back, Quake Pro League continues. Thank you for watching so far. And in a few minutes, we'll see you with more Quake.